Thank you very much all for coming. This is the second, I better get this right. Last year this was the winner of the Gerald Griffin, I should know that by heart. The Gerald Griffin Prize for first time authors in publication. And this year someone is going to announce, I presume you, the winner of the second winner of this prize. My own knowledge of Gerald Griffin is very tenuous. I have to thank Lady Geraldine basically for telling me where the stone was in which he wrote his books and how he lived in the arches here on the main street in the top story. And you can still see the semicircular window in which he lived. But after that, hopefully you don't get typhus like he did from the water, and we'll leave you alone. But you're very welcome, and after that we'll ask Tommy Collins to recite your speech there.
O sweet Adare, O lovely vale, O soft retreat of sylvan splendour, nor summer sun, nor morning gale e'er hailed the scene more softly tender. How shall I tell the thousand charms within thy verdant bosom dwelling, where, lulled in nature's fostering arms, soft peace abides and joy excelling? Ye morning airs, how sweet at dawn the slumbering boughs your song awaken, or linger o'er the silent lawn with odour of the harebell taken. Thou rising sun, how richly gleams thy smile from far Knockfearna's mountain, or waving woods and bounding streams, and many a grove and glancing fountain. Ye clouds of noon, how freshly there, when summer heats the open meadows, or parched hill and valley fair, all coolly lie your veiling shadows. Ye rolling shades and vapours grey, slow creeping o'er the golden heaven, how soft ye seal the eye of day, and wreath the dusky brow of even. In sweet Adare, the jocund spring, his notes of odorous joy is breathing. The wild birds in the woodland sing, the wild flowers in the vales are wreathing. There wings the Meg as silver clear, among the elms so sweetly flowing. There, fragrant in the early year, wild roses on the banks are blowing. The wild duck seeks the sedgy bank, or dives beneath the glistening billow, where graceful droop and clustering dank the osier bright and rustling willow. The hawthorn scents the leafy dale, in thicket lone the stag is belling, and sweet along the echoing vale the sound of vernal joy is swelling.
August Andrew. I just want to say a little bit about the legacy of Gerald Griffin and the competition itself. So, on behalf of the Limerick Writers Centre, I would like to welcome you, fellow writers and lovers of literature, to the announcement of this year's winner of the Gerald Griffin Competition for first adult fiction. Today, we gather not merely to celebrate emerging talent, but to honour a literary tradition that stretches back nearly 2 centuries. A tradition rooted in the cobblestones of Limerick and nourished by the imagination of one of Ireland's most fascinating storytellers. Our competition is named after one of Limerick's most illustrious writers, Gerald Griffin, 1803 to 1840. Although largely forgotten and ignored today, Griffin was a novelist, poet, playwright and journalist, and was the author of The Collegians, which was based on the gripping story of the Colleen Bawn, involving the murder of a young Irish Catholic girl, Ellen Hanley, by the Protestant Anglo-Irishman John Scanlon. The book later became a literary sensation and inspired a stage play, a musical adaptation, and a silent movie, Lily of Killarney. Griffin's novel, which transposed its setting from Limerick to Killarney, played a pivotal role in propelling the Killarney tourist industry. Interestingly, the book was cherished by none other than the great American poet Walt Whitman, who, we believe, was introduced to the book by another Limerick man, Peter Doyle, Whitman's long-time live-in companion. But Gerald Griffin's significance extends far beyond a single remarkable book. Griffin's literary talents extended beyond prose to poetry, most notably his beloved lyric, O Sweet Adare. This poem became so popular that it was set to traditional Irish music and remains one of the most enduring poetic tributes to the Irish landscape. The poem celebrates the beauty of Adare, transforming a specific Limerick location into a symbol of Ireland's pastoral splendour. Like his fiction, the poem demonstrates Griffin's gift for capturing the essence of place in language that resonates across generations. Born in the shadow of the Treaty Stone, Griffin emerged during a pivotal moment in Irish literature, a time when writers were beginning to forge a distinctly Irish voice within the broader landscape of English language literature. His work bridged the gap between oral storytelling traditions of rural Ireland and the sophisticated narrative techniques of the emergent novel form. Griffin possessed that rare gift of transforming local stories into universal truths. The Collegiate was not merely a tale of passion and betrayal, it was an exploration of class divisions, religious tensions, and the complex social fabric of early 19th century Ireland. His ability to weave together romance, social commentary, and psychological insight created a template that would influence generations of Irish writers. What makes Griffin particularly relevant to contemporary fiction writers is his understanding that great literature emerges from the intersection of the personal, the political, the local, and the universal. He demonstrated that a story rooted in a specific place and time, whether Limerick streets or Kerry's lakes, could speak to readers across continents and centuries. Walt Whitman's appreciation of Griffin's work testifies to this universal appeal, showing how authentic regional storytelling can transcend geographical boundaries. Griffin also exemplified the writer's responsibility to bear witness to their times. His unflinching portrayal of sectarian violence and social injustice, wrapped within gripping narratives, showed how fiction could serve both as entertainment and as a mirror reflecting society's complexities. This tradition of engaged storytelling remains as vital today as it was in Griffin's era. Perhaps more importantly, Griffin understood that literature has the power to shape not only how we see ourselves, but how others see us. His transformation of a Limerick tragedy into a Killarney romance led to unforeseen circumstances which created economic opportunities for an entire region, a testament to the practical power of imaginative literature. When we launched this competition in 2024, bearing Gerald Griffin's name, we invoked more than just his literary heritage. We summoned his spirit of fearless storytelling, of finding the extraordinary within the ordinary, of using fiction as a lens to which to examine the human condition. The writer who will emerge from this competition this year will join a lineage that connects them not only to Griffin, but to the broader tradition of Irish literary excellence. Gerald Griffin died at just 37, coincidentally the same age as Robbie Burns, Scotland's national poet. And like Burns, his literary legacy endures. Today, through the Gerald Griffin Competition for First Adult Fiction, the Limerick Writers Centre ensures that his spirit of bold, uncompromising storytelling continues to inspire new voices. In honouring Griffin's memory, we celebrate not just one man's achievement, but the enduring power of literature to illuminate, challenge, and transform our understanding of ourselves and our world. Now, the stage is set. The legacy is established. Now we wait to discover which new voice will carry this tradition forward. Ciarán. Thank you.
Before I announce the, I say good evening to you all, and before I announce the winner of the competition and say a few words about the competition itself, I'd like to talk about Gerald Griffin himself and his writing. Just a few words, not too many. Among the other aspects of this many-sided novel, The Collegians, is a masterful, there is a masterful treatise on the effects of a guilty conscience. And I find there is a very strong similarity in subject matter and intensity between Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment and the Collegians in this respect. Insofar as the main character, Hardrace Cregan, is concerned. Interestingly, Crime and Punishment was first published in 1866, while Griffin's masterpiece was published first in 1829, 37 years earlier. In this short excerpt, which I will read, Griffin captures the way Irish conversation can wander from the trivial and bantering to the serious and even the ominous. Hardrace Cregan is the son of a Protestant land-owning family and a collegian or university student. He is having a haircut in the excerpt I am about to read, and the barber is telling him his actual shop is in Garryowen, not Listowel, where he now is, and he has just been summoned to the hotel Hardrace is staying in to oblige him with a bazar, as they call it in Cork. The barber also tells him to ask for him by his nickname, Foxy Dunnett, if he finds himself in Garryowen and want of another haircut. The obsequious barber has been piling on the chat, mainly about the variety of potatoes that existed in pre-famine Ireland, as well as the variety of superstitions practiced by ordinary people at the time. And then, lo and behold, he suddenly interposes some recent news he heard that morning from Castle Island about a drowning that puts his client in a complete flap and makes him want to get out of the barber's company as soon as possible, because he, Cregan, has let the name slip of a young Catholic woman he secretly married, but having found her an inconvenience, has arranged for his man servant to dispose of her. It's a very strong wine, that, isn't it? Anyway, very well. Good morning, Foxy Dunnett. I'll remember. Good morning to your honour. Stay. He once more returned from the door. See what I was doing, carrying your honour's hair away with me. Well, and what business do you suppose I have of it now? I am not a wig maker. I don't know, sir, but people mostly likes to put it up in some safe place agin the Day of Judgment, as they say. The Day of Judgment? Yes, please, your honour, we must carry everything about us then that ever belonged to us, and a man would look droll that time without his hair. Hardrace was not in a humour for jesting, but he could not avoid smiling in secret at this conceit. Very well, he said, tapping the hair cutter on the shoulder and looking gravely in his face. As I am going a long journey at present, I will feel obliged by your keeping it for me until then, and I will call to you if I want it. As your honour feels agreeable, said Dunnett, again bowing low and moving towards the door. Nevertheless, he did not leave the room until he had made the young gentleman acquainted with all the circumstances that occasioned his absence from home at the moment. In doing so, he unwarily touched Hardrace to the core. He had come, he said, in consequence of a letter he had received from from a neighbour's daughter that had run away from her father and was hid somewhere among the Kerry Mountains. "A letter which you received," exclaimed Hardress in surprise. "Yes, sir, telling me she was alive and bidding me let the old man know of it, the old rope maker I mentioned a while ago. Since I came, I heard it reported at Castle Island this morning that she was drowned somewhere in the Flesk." "Drowned? Ailey drowned," Hardress suddenly exclaimed, starting from a reverie as a single word struck upon his hearing. "Ailey was her name, sure enough," replied O'Leary, staring on him. "Howsomedever you come to know of it?" You mentioned that name, I think, did you not?" "Maybe it slipped from me, sir. Well, as I was saying, they thought she was drowned there, and they were for having a sheet of reed with her name tied upon it, put out upon the strain, for they say when a person dies by water, the sheaf of reed will float against the strain, or with the strain, until it stops over the place where the body lies, if it had to go up to O'Sullivan's Cascade itself. But Father Edward O'Connor desired them to go home about their business, that the sheaf would go with the current, and no way else, if they were at it from this till doomsday. To be sure, he knew best. At this moment the landlady knocked at the door to inform our collegian that Mrs. Cregan was expecting him without. Having concluded his toilet, he hurried out of the room, not displeased at his release from the observation of this stranger at a moment when he felt his agitation increasing to an extent that was almost ungovernable. Out of this year's crop of 17 or 18 entrants, 5 impressive manuscripts remained at the end of a grueling April to July period when the writers were completely on their own after the 4-week course on novel writing which I presented. What is unique, I think, about our novel writing competition is that the novel or novella is actually begun during the 4-week course, gets some initial feedback, and then continued solo until a deadline at the end of July. The impressive manuscripts that remained after the deadline were those of Susan Walsh, Sinead Ryan, Brian Comfort, Siobhan Jones, and Liam Horan. Applause for those. And after further inspection and consultation between myself and the external judge, Kerry Beth Neville of Georgia State University, USA, who was a Fulbright scholar for a period at Limerick University, and has declared on Facebook that she loves Limerick, a unanimous decision was reached. Here are a few words about the winning manuscript before I announce the winner. Kerry Beth Neville says, "It navigates the lives of ordinary people with tenderness, wit and acuity. It offers heartbreak and heart mending, showing us that we are indeed bound together in community. The town itself is a character, a bit ragged but full of possibility." And I say this entry has a deft coming together of the strands one expects in a novel. An engaging story, interesting characters, an ability to bounce the reader with its steady movement to a conclusion. There are also the more subtle devices of the art of fiction, such as the writing style itself and the use of archetypal sub-themes such as pilgrimage and the gambler. And the winner is Liam Horan. Dominic will present a plaque to the winner.
Come up here. As you know, the prize is the actual manuscript is turned into a novel and published before the end of the year. So just to mark the spot tonight, it does a little certificate declaring you the winner. So can we,
thank you very much.
The middle
While I'm waiting, I'd like to thank Dominic and Kieran and Kerry Neville for their work on this competition. We had a very interesting competition. You have to submit, and then you go through a mentoring, submit a bit, go through a mentoring process, and then submit more. And there's a great camaraderie between the people participating as well. Brian and Sinead were here tonight, so we had great fun along the way. And I'd thank my wife Noreen as well for supporting me. I've just completed a master's in creative writing at UL, which I know Sinead is past the graduate of as well too. So I might be a bit old for emerging writer status, but
Never too old.
Never too old. So,
now there's your manuscript, Liam.
okay, thank you.
So you can, I know it's a bit awkward in ring-bound
Yeah.
format, but you can pick it out, please, and read it through.
I'll read the first page. Is that okay? The Dink, it's the title, it's in the voice of Louise, and that's the chapter title, Louise. The dink of the doorbell is the second of the afternoon. The first was Louise letting herself in, coming back from lunch. It's nearly 3:30. Wednesday is always and ever her valley day. Almost without intention, she moves adhesive glues to the shelf recently vacated by Polly Pockets. She could call it a slow day, but who would she be fooling? Who have we here? Another JL, just looking. The woman is tall, her short black hair flecked with the grey that works well on her. A mother of teenage children, most likely, sent in to get an item for school. Louise edges in her direction. Nice enough afternoon out there, but they're giving it for rain later, she ventures. The first exchange with an unknown customer is often inane. What can you do? That such and such a politician sounds like a fierce yoke entirely, doesn't he? Wouldn't cut it either. You'd wonder what they know at all. They missed the snow entirely last week, the woman replies. She could put this woman out of her misery by asking what she's looking for, but that would be to breach the code. If a customer needs your help first off, they'll tell you. Browsers must be allowed to winkle out what they want. When they've run aground, you can bail them out. And you can't take chances with customers on the second last Wednesday of January at Inkspire, Stationery and Art Supplies, or any other day for that matter. January isn't alone in its hunger anymore. The woman rambles down the first aisle past rulers, pencils and compasses. She does a full circle and returns to consider envelopes, folders, journals and diaries. She surveys a diary. It is during in-between periods like this that Louise might normally take to scrolling through Facebook, but she's working hard at curing her phone addiction. It's turned off and left under the counter. I'm looking for an A4 one, a page for every day. I don't see any here, she says. I know the one you mean. Let me go out the back and check if I've any left, Louise replies. The notion of storing diaries out the back at the end of January. If Louise had any, they'd be on display just scoured by the woman, advertised with a fluorescent sign trumpeting 50% off. That's as far as
beautiful.
Thank you.
Three of these there.
Yeah, because What about your friends? You looked up at that. What did you say? Shoot! I got the club. I don't believe it. I would have smoked them.
I have told them about the capital items.